Hello.
Hi.
Okay. Welcome to Dover Court School, Abby.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Hi. So, when did you know you first wanted to start writing?
Well, I always loved books when I was little, and I did a lot of reading, and I read so much that I would sometimes read in the night when I was supposed to be sleeping. My parents would turn off the light and I would sneakily turn it back on and read a bit more. And I even found a way of reading while I was in the shower. I used to read like this and wash my hair like that at the same time because I couldn't bear to put my book down. So I think all those books that I was reading mixed up inside me and made me want to be a writer. But I didn't start by being a writer. I was a lawyer before I was a writer. And then I started writing a bit more when I got older.
When did you start writing?
Well, I did my first book probably when I was about 4, just for fun. And I used to staple bits of paper together, and sometimes I used to get a ribbon and tie it together, and I used to make all kinds of books. It's a really fun way of starting to be a writer, because you don't have to have your book on the shelf. You could just make a book for you, for play. And so I always made my own books. And then as I got older and older, then I thought, I really would like to have a book published. And at that time I was a lawyer, so I started writing in my spare time until I had a book that would be published and on the shelf that you could buy.
How do you develop like a character? Like how do you get their names?
Where do you get the inspiration?
Yeah. Developing a character, sometimes I like to think of people that I know and what they're a bit like, because you want to make your character feel quite real. So sometimes if I've got a funny friend, I think, oh, I'm going to just see what that funny friend does and what kind of mannerisms they use, how they use their voice, how they make their jokes. And I think, oh, I'm going to mix that funny friend together with this other auntie of mine that gets cross really quickly, and then I'm going to mix those two together and I'm going to have a funny character that gets cross really quickly. For the names, sometimes I just look in like lists of baby names. So if I think, oh, I want a child that's maybe about 8, I will look at what names are popular at that time that the child was born. And I'll go back and look through the boy names and the girl names until I find one that feels right. So that's what I do when I want to make a character.
When was your first book published?
My first book was published about 10 years ago, and my first book was Fairy Tale Hairdresser. It's not this one, this is number 12 now, but it's a bit like this one. It was called Fairy Tale Hairdresser and Rapunzel. That was the first book that came out.
But do you get like different illustrators for different books?
That's a good question. I don't get to choose my illustrator. The publisher chooses the illustrator. So I send in my words and they find the illustrator for me. So the illustrator for Fairy Tale Hairdresser is called Lauren, and she also does the illustrations for the Magic Potion Shop. But I have a different illustrator for Trapdoor Mysteries, and he's called James. And so what they do is they try and imagine what kind of style will work for each book. So James Brown, his style looks a bit more kind of grown up, and he's very good at drawing the puzzles and codes that we need to do. Whereas Lauren's style is perfect for fairy tales. She does fantastic little fairies and dwarves and goblins and things like that.
Have you made any comics?
I've never made comics. I don't draw well enough to make a comic, but I do love comics. I think they're fantastic. It's a really good way of getting started to make a good comic. It's a really good idea.
Have you ever thought of like making your own book, but that you're the illustrator?
Yeah, I think that would be really hard. It's such a special skill being an illustrator. It's more than just being able to draw. You have to be able to imagine really well. So say you have to draw an elephant doing a somersault wearing roller skates. You'll never be able to find that picture to draw it from, so you have to picture it in your head and imagine how all his 4 legs will look with the roller skates as he's spinning in the air, and where will his tail be. And it's a very special kind of skill being an illustrator.
How old do you think your books are like meant to be? Like how old would the children be?
Anyone could read them at any age. I think even books like this with lots of pictures in are still fun to read as you get older. So anyone who enjoys them can read them. But generally, the children who buy these books are about 4 or 5. Children who buy these books are about 6 or 7. And the children who like these books tend to be about 7 or 8. So that's kind of generally, but I don't mind. People can read them at any age they like.
thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all your questions. They were excellent questions. I've had such a lovely time at the school. Everyone's been so friendly, and you know what I've noticed? How polite and kind all the children have been. It's such a warm and friendly place, so I've been really happy here for 3 days. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.